almost complete serendipity. I guess I'd come back from about a year travelling on the old Asia Overland route, going from the UK through Iran, Afghanistan and so on down through India to... I never quite got to Australia at that point. But I came back from a year of doing that, with no idea what I'd want to do, and I drifted into publishing. And publishing sort of grabbed me because it was dealing with people with exciting ideas, and that drifted into television production, and that drifted into art creation and exhibition, and that drifted into the whole online world. So it's been a sort of, I think serendipity means arriving happily at something you didn't expect, and I think that's how I got into the arts. But the beauty of the arts is there's nothing more compelling. There's nothing, and you can suddenly find your whole life has been occupied with it. Humming is one of the great things, like whistling, humming and whistling. So, like most people, I think, I really like music, but I'm completely unmusical personally. Like many people, I tried the piano when I was young and completely failed. But the beauty is, well, you can be accused of being a lousy singer. Nobody can accuse you of being a lousy hummer, can they? So it's the way we all express our musicality when we're deeply unmusical. But yes, I hum, I can do Wagner, I can do Danny Boy, I can... but the real curse, of course, is what really stays in your brain is the jingles, doesn't it? And while you try to fill your humming life with profound things, it tends to get filled up with jingles. Absolutely both. My great mantra is, whatever level of work you're doing, look at the detail of your work and look at the big picture of your work, and leave the middle ground to the people who work for you, if you have people who work for you. And the reason I say that is the detail is where the standards are set. The power, the precision, the checking that thing is really as good as it can be comes from the detail, but detail without being in service of a bigger picture is normally fairly futile. So I think you absolutely have to look at the big picture of where you're going, but you also need to look down to the detail to make sure that the communication and the idea is developed. There's that great cliche, if you like, that the best is the enemy of the good, which really says perfectionism means you often don't get something really good done. My view is the opposite of that. The good is the enemy of the best. The willingness to say this is a good piece of work is what stops it becoming a stupendously good piece of work. And I think if you look constantly, is this really big picture, but also is its execution in its detail really as good as it can be, that's where you get excellence, and my commitment is always to excellence. The key to this is for the day, because if it's for a day I can do whatever I want, and whereas the usual political problem of you have to think of all your constituents and the media, I would completely disregard that because somebody else would pick it up. So what I would do is go out and commission the most outrageous, controversial art I could possibly do, and I would do something of huge impact that had everybody saw a big piece of public art that was massively controversial and challenging and outrageous. Not myself, I'd commissioned somebody, and I would have the great knowledge that I would have created something of massive creativity and impact, but I didn't have to take the consequences for how it went. Slow art and slow literature. I was brought up in the 60s where everything was very laid back. I won't say that was because of the drugs involved, but it was certainly a very laid back environment. Well, laid back and then protest. You had a protest and then you laid back for quite a while. But you had people like the great Russian filmmaker Andrei Tarkovsky, whose films absolutely compelled your brain, your body and everything to slow down and completely inhabit his world. And the long literature, the Prousts and people like this, where your life gets taken over by them. And I think there's something about the slowness and the permeation that you actually really do inhabit their worlds. And while I'm a great fan of, in my world, the more contemporary world of fast cutting and editing, it does give an energy and a pace. There's something that keeps you sort of less absorbed in it. It's more about the visual change going in front of you rather than your brain and your emotions being sucked in. And like slow food, like all of those movements, slow art to me is one I constantly hanker for, but it's not coming back just yet. curiously, an almost complete lack of personal career ambition, I have to say. One of the great things in life is don't have career ambition, because then what you do is you actually follow what interests you and what grabs you, and rather than always thinking about what your current role is on stepping to something else, you actually live in the moment and you live for what you're doing there and then. And maybe I'm lucky, because I think you probably do need some ambition, but I've always felt there's something about, rather than seeing this as a stepping stone to something else that's about you, seeing this as something about doing something exciting with other people. And that tends to lead on to other roles. So I've sort of got to where I've got almost by ignoring a career stepping ladder. And I think I've probably enjoyed the route through more as a result.